Hello, my people. Good afternoon from here. Welcome to another episode. Today, we are going to be delving into something very sensitive. Sensitive because it's something that has been in the Nigerian space for decades. In fact, I would say we went to war, and since after that war, we have struggled, to address the issue of what we're about to talk about. So we'll get into it. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are joining from. My name is Mark Johnson, and this is Niger Gist 2027 and beyond. Today we are going to be talking about the Nnamdi Kanu issue, and the question Nigeria keeps dodging. This is our exclusive for today. And we'll be talking about this young man called Nnamdi Kanu, what just happened in the courts, I think 3 days ago. He's being sentenced to life imprisonment. So that's what we want to look at. The news of his sentencing to life imprisonment is formal. The verdict has been delivered. But let us be clear on what the headline truly means for this nation. That's why we are doing this podcast. Nigeria did not just sentence the man, Nnamdi Kanu. Nigeria sentenced a movement, and a mirror. Because Nnamdi Kanu's life imprisonment is not an Igbo problem, the way some of us might want to look at it. It's a Nigerian problem, a democratic problem, a justice problem, a unity problem that affects every single one of the nation's 250 million people. That's the real issue, and that's why we need to talk about this topic. It's very delicate, and from what we are seeing, if this thing is not handled properly, it has the potential to break up our nationhood. It's been left too long unattended to. Everybody just behaves like it's not a problem, like it's not an issue, but we all know the truth. We can't keep lying to ourselves. So putting this man in jail, I don't have a problem if he has committed a crime. It's no issue. But when the rules do not apply the same across board, there is a bigger issue, and especially when the rule tends to come down harder on one ethnic group than the others, then there's a problem. But stay with me, we are going to unpack and you're going to understand why we need to address this problem before the problem addresses us. So we're going to be talking about the man, the movement, and the message. And we all know that for years, Nnamdi Kanu has been the loudest, most persistent voice calling for the dissolution of the Nigerian state and the re-establishment of Biafra. He did so with passion, with immense reach, and crucially, with a global platform. The state saw him as an existential threat, a separatist inciting violence. But for millions in the southeast, particularly the youth, he became a symbol of deep, enduring, systemic grievances that Nigeria has failed to address for decades. The state insists this is justice. Millions perceive it as selective severity. And therein, my Niger brothers and sisters, lies the ultimate danger. Because in Nigeria, perception often shapes reality faster than policy ever will. Sometimes in Nigeria, I don't know what policies we have, but our perception is very strong. And in this case, the perception of these judgments, the process leading to it, and events and everything, I don't think is a good one across board. So we talk about the asymmetry of justice, the core problem. Let's speak plainly about the central issue in this case. the power, the perception, and the pattern of response from the federal government. We must ask the uncomfortable question that the chains on one man are forcing us to confront. That the chains on one man are forcing us to confront. This is the uncomfortable questions that we have to ask ourselves. Why does dissent from certain regions, understand me properly, why does dissent from certain regions attract dialogue and negotiation, while this dissent from others attracts prosecution with full fury and a life sentence? This is the issue. We all are Nigerians. We've seen cases when known terrorists, Nnamdi Kanu, if you say he's a terrorist, he might pass for one, depending on what the laws say. But we've seen terrorists with guns negotiate with government. We've seen government functionaries go into the bush or bring these guys out from the bush with their guns into government house, take photos, and dialogue with these guys. And we know the atrocities that they have committed. And they come out accepting they've committed those atrocities. The government dialogues with them. In fact, they even get reabsorbed, as we hear, into the military, into the armed forces. And I believe this has, from what we hear, this is part of the problem that led to the execution, the capture and execution of the Army Brigadier General that was killed, I think even the same last week or the week before. But that's a topic for another day. So why? Why does dissent from certain regions? Why do we dialogue with those people, and in the other regions we come down with the full weight of the law? Why do armed bandits and militia leaders in one corner of the country sometimes engage in long-term peace talks, receive amnesties, or see their commanders released, while activists and agitators in another, even those initially protesting peacefully, are pursued with the full might of the military and the judiciary? This is not about ethnicity, so don't get my podcast wrong. It's a problem. It's not about ethnicity. We always play those cards, or let me say the politicians always play those cards in us, the citizens. Yeah, I said in us because when the politicians come up with, they are the ones that bring up religious, ethnic, and all those, dichotomies, but they play those things out inside us, the citizens, because we are the ones that now amplify it and take it a step further by fighting with our brothers and sisters and seeing ourselves as enemies rather than seeing these politicians as the main enemies that we commonly have as citizens of Nigeria. But again, this is something we're going to talk about another time. So this is not about ethnicity. This is about equity, legitimacy, and the national trust. When a significant demographic consistently feels targeted, over-policed, and politically underrepresented, resentment does not stay silent. It grows teeth. And when resentment grows teeth, you never know. NSAS was something that started like this. It refused, the authorities and people refused to address it until it became what it was. The sentiment, whether or not you agree with the separatist ideology, is rooted in concrete, undeniable realities. And let's discuss why this group of people, I believe, my own opinion is that Nigeria has not been fair to them. They might not be fair to themselves, because I still hold the fact that the biggest problem of this ethnic group, the Igbos or the Southeast, are themselves. They are the ones that will bring themselves down instead of coming together as a group, as a unit, to advocate and propagate their own, strength, collectively. I mean, they do it individually, but as a collective. But again, that is not an excuse for the Nigerian state to do what it is perceived to be doing to them. So we look at limited representation. A palpable absence of Southeast at the highest echelons of federal power for extended periods. reinforcing the historical feeling of marginalization. The unhealed scar, the open wounds of the Civil War, the unresolved questions, the lack of genuine national reconciliation process make the state's response feel less like enforcement of law and more like historical punishment. You look at the disproportionate security presence, repeated and highly concentrated security operations in the Southeast, which even when aimed at curbing illegal activities are viewed by locals as occupation and intimidation. You look at the judicial optics of it, arrests and court processes that are seen as harsher, quicker, and less forgiving compared to similar politically sensitive cases involving activities or armed groups in other regions. So when citizens begin to believe that the system is not merely flawed but actively rigged against them, their loyalty to the concept of Nigeria will evaporate. It's as simple as that. When loyalty evaporates, agitation rides in on a horseback, and the state's authority becomes ceremonial. These are the things that we have to guard against moving forward and in dealing with this matter. Because if you ask me, Nigeria is at the crossroads, and this is a warning from history. The real danger is not Nnamdi Kanu himself, even though he seems to mirror the perception of, most people, especially those from the Southeast, but the real danger is not in the Nnamdi Kanu or him being sentenced, to life imprisonment. The real danger is a nation slowly, systematically teaching entire demographics that they are, at best, second-class citizens and at worst, guests in their own homeland. This is the main issue. We must heed the warnings of history. Every time a nation chooses suppression over conversation, the bill comes with compound interest, negative compound interest, if I must add. Every time a state tries to manufacture unity through force, the eventual fracture is deeper. Fear does not produce peace. It only produces temporary silence. And temporary silence is a dangerous silence on its own is a dangerous response. The sentencing of one man cannot and will not dissolve an idea that is rooted in decades of political and economic neglect. Silencing the voice does not eradicate the problem. It merely forces the ideology on the ground, making it more unpredictable and more dangerous. This is a time for introspection, my dear brothers and sisters, my Nigerian brothers and sisters, not just enforcement. The verdict should not be viewed as victory, but as a diagnosis of a critical illness in the Nigerian Federation. That is how this should be viewed. So, in closing, my Nigerian brothers and sisters, Nigeria must now answer a more profound question. Is Nigeria truly building a federation of equals or a republic ruled by fairness? Or is it merely managing a coalition of tolerated regions, a territory governed by convenience? Because when justice begins to look sectional, unity starts to look fictional. The foundation of any democracy is the belief in equal justice under the law, regardless of the political inconvenience. When that belief dies, the democracy itself follows soon after. This is not about Biafra, so don't get me wrong. I'm not a Biafran. I'm an Akwa Ibom man. They are my neighbors. We are brothers, just like every other person in Nigeria. We are all brothers from the same, country. This is about Nigeria staring at its reflection and deciding what kind of nation it wants to truly build. The chains on one man today may become the silence of many tomorrow. So let us think about it, And on this note, I would ask that you guys put your comments respectfully. What do you think? Has this region been treated fairly? Since after the Civil War. And why are we always avoiding this issue of talking about, the real integration, honest and sincere integration of this ethnic group into the Nigerian space? Why are we always running away from it? I see what happened in the 2023 elections. You know, it was clearly, in my view, the turn of the Igbos to rule Nigeria. But that wasn't even the problem. The problem was that the division, you know, and the obstruction of that goal came from the Igbo people themselves. The man called Nyesom Wike orchestrated what he could in the PDP, got out Peter Obi somewhere else, and was hoping to benefit, from the chaos, which he did not at the end of the day. So why is it a problem, for us to look at this issue and talk about it honestly? So thank you, my Nigeria brothers and sisters, for tuning in today. Sorry. Until we come your way again with raw, unfiltered, and real, uncut gist. This has been Nigeria Gist 2027 and beyond, where we don't just talk, we challenge, we question, and we awaken. Thank you for your time. Drop your comments in the comment section. Share, like, and subscribe to this video. I'll catch you on the other side. Thank you.